morning. This morning I'm going to see a couple of projects in Bath. One's for a long-term client. We've done a lot on his house over the years. His is a 19th century Bath townhouse, and the other project is a new customer, and I believe her house is 18th century, slightly bigger. First phase of the construction of Regency Bath. So I'm just leaving to try and manage the traffic and parking in Bath. Problem with a lot of these small towns and cities that they weren't really made for, well, they weren't made at all for the modern traffic, but they definitely weren't made for the amount of large tourist coaches that you now get. So sometimes it's a little bit of a nightmare, but as it's February, hopefully it'll be quiet and we'll be able to get in. It's not, it's about 30 miles away. Generally takes me about 20 minutes to get to the outskirts of Bath, and then about 45 minutes to drive 3 miles in, 2 miles in. So that's where I'll go this morning. A lot of these houses, they were built by different buildings. So you had a terrace of houses, and they were all built to a similar design by different companies and building companies. So at a glance they look very similar, but when you actually get into it, some of the details are different even. So the second place I'm going to, which is the client that we've worked for a long time now, he has a Vitruvian swirl or wave design around his building, which goes on to the other houses in the terrace, but it's the quality of the carving is very different from one to the next. The lady that I'm going to see, that I already have done a survey for her. One of the problems she has is that she has a very large gable wall that's open to the elements, west facing, gets all the wind and rain, and it's single skin, so she has a terrible problem with condensation. And what hasn't helped is here, for these sorts of buildings that are supposed to be protected, we have two different government agencies or local government agencies dealing with these things. One of them says that these are listed buildings and everything must go back as, and anything you do that isn't as was must be reversible, pretty much. But then another government agency says that we have to do our best to save energy, and there's lots of regulation on windows, this sort of thing. Where the problem arises in Bath, one of the architecturally important features on these buildings are the beautiful sash windows with very thin glazing bars that will not hold double glazing. So on one hand, you're not allowed to put double glaze units in, and on the other hand, if you don't put double glaze units in, you are going to get a fine. balancing act. Also, the problem is by making these buildings draft proof, you're causing more condensation. Because the thing that stopped them from getting condensation was they were so drafty, there was so much airflow that in the past they never had to worry. But you start putting carpets down, sealing all the gaps, putting your nice warm central heating, you're making a lovely rainforest atmosphere out of the damp that's in the porous limestone that the building's made from, and it doesn't help anyone. So we'll be looking at this today. The other problem we've had in Bath a lot, there's a lot of water. So we're working on Widcombe up by Prior Park, which is a famous stately home. But there are so many springs, water springs, permanent water springs, but also ones that pop up when it rains, and we're in the west of England, and as you can see there are puddles everywhere. It rains. So what we also have is a situation where we have very hard water. Initially, conduits, stone conduits, were laid under the buildings to take the water away from the building straight into down the hill into the garden. But over the course of whatever it is, 200 years, the conduits have come completely blocked with calcite formed from the lime scale formed from the heavy water, or not the heavy water, the hard water, and they get blocked and you can't get to them because they're underneath a sandstone pennant floor, never been meant to have any maintenance to them. They're there and that's it. And then you start getting all of this damp appearing in your floor and in your walls. And then even now you get people injecting silicone into the walls or tanking the walls to keep the damp out of the room. Well, some of the walls are two-skin ashlar with a rubble interior, so there's no way that you can silicone the lot. You can silicone your inner skin, but there's still damp everywhere else, which rather than coming out of the wall and disappearing into the atmosphere, just keeps on going up. Excuse me. So these are the problems that keep stonemasons in Bath going, really. There's so much of this sort of work correcting problems from Victorian times right the way through to the 80s, 90s. So many of these conservation techniques were the best thing since sliced bread at the time, and then you find out that actually they've caused more damage than if they'd not been done in the first place. So and then the next part of my day will be concentrating on the Stone Festival, and I've got to deal with I have some minor things to deal with about the journeymen and journeymen that are coming to the festival from across the world and putting them up and this sort of thing. The journey, the word journey comes from journey, by the day, in our apprenticeship system in not stonemason, in our guild, you do a 5-year apprenticeship, then a 2-year journey. One of our problems comes from our friendships, which is an odd thing to say maybe, but there are a lot more German journeymen than there are English, hugely more. But their traditions are counter to ours in some ways, absolute polar opposites. Both fine, no problem with either of them, but just different. But a lot of the English journeymen do feel pushed into leaving the English tradition and taking up the German tradition, which is, in my opinion, much more officious, many more rules. The basis of the English tradition is, as a master, you send your apprentice off and you give them very few rules. The whole point is to find out their views on things and their morality. So if I was to say to you, don't rob an old lady, and you don't, then is it that you haven't done it because I told you not to do it, or is it because you know it's the wrong thing to do? So in the English tradition, you don't say work for your money. Always be polite. Always help people, so the next journeyman that comes along will get the same treatment as you have. Don't take gifts, and don't beg for gifts. Always work in some way for everything you get. As far as we're concerned, you shouldn't be told that. That should be built into you. That should be part of your moral code. The Germans and some of the others, they actually have these rules. So, in my opinion, or in our tradition, it defeats half the object of the journey, really. So it's just trying to work with people, being diplomatic, trying to see how these two things fit together, things that we don't want said to our journeymen. Ask if they cannot be said, because it doesn't go. There is a point. These traditions are formed over hundreds and hundreds of years, and there is a point to them. And it should be, they're an intangible cultural heritage, basically, so they should be protected in their own form as much as possible, and in the same way as races and nationalities. Everyone should rub along together and not try to change each other. So I think the journey, I've trained 18 people, and I've encouraged them all to journey. Some have, some haven't. They're not forced to. They can do a 5-year apprenticeship and that's it, or they can, if they go on their journey, we give the little support that you give on a journey, which basically is a bit of information to start off with, and if there's any huge problems, we can help. But again, the tradition of the journey is that you do it yourself. You go off, you do it yourself, and you learn how to survive. I suppose you could say there's a spiritual element to it, or a Zen element to it. It's about there's a big part of it is about freedom. So when you leave home and you're on the road, you're pretty much free to do whatever you want to do, go in whichever direction you want to go in, and there's no one telling you what to do. The only thing you're guided by is earning enough money to survive. That's the only thing you're guided by. Everything else is a decision that you have to make, which sounds wonderful, but it's not all positive. And the other point is, it's not for everybody. So if everybody did that, then there would be nobody to help you, because everyone would be not paying taxes, wandering around the world. And especially for stonemasons, most of our work is quite expensive, so we'd have no clients. So you must understand that. Also, you must understand that I have freedom to do what I want, but people have to be able to rely on me, otherwise they're not going to support me. So if I get some work somewhere and say I'm going to do something, if I do a couple of days and then don't turn up, the journeyman as a whole get a bad reputation. But also, I'm not going to, if anyone hears about this, next time I go for a job, I'm not going to get the job. So it's not total freedom. There are things that I have to do. There are societal expectations that I have to meet. In the same way as I was saying about the rules, these things are not told to the journeyman necessarily. They may be in conversation, but there's no book of rules that say this is what it's all about, this is what you've got to do. You should be finding this yourself and solving the problems as they come. So it's a fascinating but also a crucial part of classical training, in my opinion. It's very hard for the people that do it. You must understand, as the master of these usually younger people, they will make mistakes. There will be times when you get messages that are very fraught and upset, where they're stressed or frightened, and it's just a matter of accepting it for what it is, and just being solid and just consistent for them, and then they can use you as they wish to. This is another point that a lot of people misunderstand. In our tradition, the apprentices call me or their master, and they don't use their names. And a lot of people rail against this, where they think if someone is your master, you're their slave and they are your master. But in craft, I'm not a master of a person, I'm master of a craft, or part of a craft. So I'm a master craftsman. That is that's my title. So as a master, I deserve to be called master because I work for it, the same as anyone deserves the accolades that they have earned. They deserve them to be recognised. If I'm not your master and you ask me detailed questions about how to do things, or ask me for help that is above and beyond, I'm not necessarily going to do either of those things, because it's a fool's errand to tell people how to do stuff. It's like getting a plumber and they tell you how to fix your own sink, and I haven't got the time to help everyone. But if I'm your master, then I will help you, and anything you need to know I will tell you. I'll just pull over for a second because the camera has just loosened due to the bumpiness of the road. Good old Gloucestershire County Council. We're just coming past a place in a second called Roman Camp, and Roman Camp, I think initially it was believed to be an amphitheatre, but it turns out afterwards through the archaeology that it's much older. When the Romans came, it was already there, and it was some kind of Iron Age fort. It's just over to our right now. Some kind of Iron Age fort that the Romans took to protect and dominate this road we're on now, which was one of the main roads going from Bath, which was a Roman city, going towards Gloucester, which is another, Cleveland, which is another Roman city. So I'm not sure, was Bath called Aqua Solis, or was that big god? I can't remember. But anyway, this was a main Roman road, and they used the Iron Age fort that was already there as some kind of base to keep an eye on this road. We're just passing Chipping Sodbury at the moment. Chipping is an Anglo-Saxon word, or an Old English word for market. So I live in Wootton Under Edge, or as they say in Gloucestershire, Wootton Under Edge. I've been told off for saying it wrong as a foreigner from London. And the car park in the centre of town used to be the main market, and that is called the Chippings. We have Chipping Camden, Chipping Norton, quite a few around this way, towns with the Chipping in the name. I'm about halfway to Bath now. We're up on the top, and we'll start dropping down into Bath soon. We go from Gloucestershire into North Somerset. on the top of the hill above Bath. So behind us we have the Cotswolds, or we're still just about in the Cotswolds now. So around this point, historically, things built out of stone would be Cotswold stone to our rear, and coming soon would be Bath stone, coming from the big quarries at Box and Corsham and places like that. Most of the, I think the Bath stone, well no, the Bath stone was quarried by the Romans and it's been used since. The Roman baths are still there. The hot spring is still runs, and I think they cleaned it all out. They took the big plug out recently and cleaned it out. It's still there for people to go and see. It's similar stone, the Cotswold stone and the Bath stone. The Bath stone's a little bit softer, nicer to carve, but not so. Doesn't stand up quite so well to the weather as Cotswold stone. The first project I'm going to look at is on Ralph Allen Drive, I think it is, and I believe it to be the case that Ralph Allen Drive was the steep hill that came down from the quarries, and basically there were wooden runners running down this road, and the blocks of stone would just run down these runners, skidding down these runners into the city or town, as it was probably. And the work, a lot of the work was done down in the city itself. The whole of Bath is built from Bath stone. We're also going past Dereham Park in a minute. Dereham Park's been it's National Trust now, stately home. It was used as the setting for the Remains of the Day, the film. I think there have been loads of other films there over the years. Wonderful place, wonderful house. And if you've seen any of our videos about our workshop, you'll see a big urn that's actually in progress at the moment. With it has water deities as handles and a canthus leaf decoration, a campana urn, and it's a copy of the urns that are in the orangery at Dereham Park. I don't know, you can see the dry stone walling on our right hand side, or left hand side as well, but the dry stone wall on the right hand side is about 15 years old, and the stuff on the left is much older and needs a bit of repair. It's quite a large industry in these parts, the dry stone walling, and there are many, probably more dry stone wallers than there are stonemasons like myself, banker masons and fixer masons. And one of the things they brag about is the point that there is more dry stone walling in the Cotswolds than the length of the Great Wall of China. I don't think really that goes together, but there you go. It's something for the tourist board. Dereham Park now is the entrance is just on our right, and maybe, unless there's traffic roadworks, that's possibly why we're held up. Sometimes we've got something going into the park. The amount of traffic going into Bath in the morning is huge. roads often get blocked. The guild that I belong to formally started in 936, but it comes from a tradition that is Roman, 55 BC, in the Clodian law, and for I think 400 years Britain was ruled by the Romans. When Rome fell to the Visigoths, I think it was, the legions in Britain went back to try and bolster Rome and protect it. And it left lots of people, imagine 400 years, that's older than many modern countries. Some of the people had never succumbed to Roman rule, and some people had become very, very Romanised. Around here we have Bath in front of us, which was a very Roman place, and then just over to our left is Cirencester, which is where the workshops were for the mosaic and stone carving. The Collegia Epifica were based in Cirencester. So this was a Romano-British stronghold. After the Romans left, for quite a long time, the people still looked like Romans and spoke the Latin of the time. But there was a battle here between the I'm not sure if it would have been the Britons or the Angles at that time. I think it's probably the Britons, which was the Battle of Durham, which is just on our right hand side here, in 500 and something, 560 or something, I can't remember the date, 500 and something. And basically that was the end of Romano-British influence. That was the finish of it. And then we became, over time, the nation that we are now. Rather than speaking Latin, our language turned to a Germanic language, and we were taken over by the Jutes and the Angles and the Saxons and the Vikings, and hence a lot of my continental friends jokingly but truthfully call the English the bastards of Europe, because there's not an English race or an English cultural type as such, because we're made up of so many different peoples, and especially with our navy of the past, we've had a large and mainly successful for the country, not for the people, immigration and influx of people that has benefited our country. And although it may be an unpleasant truth to some, not to me, most of us are very we have a very diverse heritage, most of us, without knowing it. Low Country, Scandinavian, French especially, because obviously I'm talking about before 1066, after 1066, lots of Normans and French. Most of our royalty for a long time were French speaking. Our legal system still speaking an archaic French. Now obviously our royalty are a cross between French, German and Greek. Very little, well no, very little Germanic, English Germanic heritage, mainly continental and Scandinavian. And I think it's something to be very proud about, not the royalty, the heritage of the country. Right, we can see, probably, hopefully, you'll get flashes of the valley down to our right, which the end of this valley is the city of Bath. Say it, I'm probably ruining my chances of getting in, but it's been very free flowing so far, the traffic, and I'm going to end up being early, but there's still time. The main street or the main road into Bath, London Road, will probably be quite busy, it usually is. I've lived in Gloucestershire for quite a few decades now, and I've been working in Bath over the course of 25 years, something like that. And I've seen the traffic get so much worse, and the people change as well. I'm from London, so I can't complain, but there are a lot more people who from the home counties. They're not necessarily from London originally, but they've made their fortune, made their money in London, and then they've bought either primary or secondary houses in Bath. So unfortunately it's become a little bit of a suburb of that sort of estuary culture, which is not always great in my opinion, and something that I was happy to leave behind. Worked on quite a few buildings in Bath over the years, worked on lots of townhouses and that sort of thing. I've worked on the big Empire Hotel. I think that was the first job I worked on in Bath in the 90s. Was they turned an old hotel into apartments and flats. It's the huge building right in the centre of Bath, overlooking the Bath rugby ground. A lot of my friends are from Bath and English Coombe and places like that. So here we go down into the dip that Bath sits in. We will be turning right at the bottom to go into Bath proper, but Bath now is over on our right hand side. But as the camera is facing straight forward and I am turning slightly left, I doubt very much if you will be able to see it at the moment. Just paying attention because I've got someone driving very, very close. This person passing me now doesn't quite understand the speed limit either, because they're just speeding past us, speeding camera. No, they stuck their brakes on at the last moment. So we can see the houses ahead of us up on the hill. These are the houses that are surrounding Bath now. right in the very centre, Roman. There's a lot spoken about Jane Austen and her works in Bath. I'm not sure that that's the best thing about Bath, but it's a money maker. So, lots of people walking around dressed as Regency men, or women in bonnets carrying parasols. And there we go, as I said, I spoke too soon. There's the traffic jam going into London Road. But one of the first things we pass is the training ground for Bath Rugby, which sometimes a bit early today, but sometimes you'll see the rugby players practicing, but I'm not sure they're going to be there at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'll turn off for a little while now because you're just going to be watching traffic jams for 20 minutes.